Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at a new devblog which is probably going to be for updates 1.101, and this time we're having a look at some new T-72s. Yes, more T-72s are going to be coming to the game. They're going to be coming in quite a large number. There is going to be two of them which are going to be added. We're getting the T-72 1989 version of the B, and then there's also going to be a T-72B3, which seems to have a modification built off of it, which is incredibly substantial to what it can do. Now, the confirmation that even though this is set out, and it looks like there are going to be three T-72s, the confirmation that there's going to be two comes from Stoner, a community manager on the forums, and he says, as Zabi said, two T-72s, you have the one T-72B, and then you have the two T-72B3, plus additional modifications in modules. So therefore, when we're looking at these T-72s, you've got to see them as two separate ones instead of three overall. So what are we looking at? Well, the first thing you have to understand is we already have two T-72s in game. We have the A variant and the B variant. They are substantially different from each other. I've personally had a lot of fun in the T-72A, and I'm looking forward to play the T-72B, and now since it's getting even a bigger upgrade in the 1989, should be quite fun to eventually get through these vehicles. Then on top of this, as I said, we have the B3s, which are some of the most modern of the T-72s that we have, which still, most recently are in the Russian armed forces. They're kind of the backbone of it, if you want to see it like that. So let's talk about the T-72B 1989, which is the one you see before you right now. So the major difference between this one and the T-72B that we have in game is the extra armor on the exterior. Some more ERA, some different ERA. What we have on this machine is Contact 5. It's the second gen explosive reactive armor system, and what this basically will give is much more frontal defense against heat and kinetic munitions. If you have a look at stuff like the T-80U in the game, it already has stuff such as this armor, so it's not, something new to the game. It is just something which is kind of there, and now you have it in, of course, like the extra little plates all over it, especially with the diagonal triangles that you see on the turret. That is what we're going to be seeing mainly, the difference between this and the normal B variant. It's also got a little bit of extra ERA on the sides of it, but when it comes to pretty much everything else, this one is very, very similar. So the T-72B that we already see in game, this one is going to be incredibly similar to it. You're not really going to get too much else apart from that extra protection. So yeah, it's a nice little upgrade, and especially with the changes that they've just done to Heat FS, where the majority of vehicles now get it as the default shell, it's going to be incredibly annoying facing this thing in a stock variation, because it will be incredibly hard to pen it frontally, unless you aim for, of course, that driver port weak spot, which I'm sure they'll keep a weak spot going forward. The next vehicle that is available is the T-72B3, and the modification for it, which is known as the UBH. Now, the UBH is a Russian abbreviation. What it stands for, at least in kind of English, is Improved Battle Characteristics. So it's just a straight upgrade in pretty much every way. And the main difference between this and the previous T-72 that we just saw was the fact that this T-72, the T-72B3, has thermal imaging systems. This thing has a gunner thermal, which will hopefully change how it plays in the game. It will probably get access to some better ammunition, but it also keeps stuff such as, you know, the extra ERA, the Contact 5 that we see from the upgraded 1989 T-72B, and also it has pretty decent mobility on it. So this vehicle that you see before you is from 2010 or 2011. This is just a massive, you know, a massive change in what we've seen from MBTs, and it also means maybe we're going to see a bunch of other very modern MBTs from a bunch of other nations. It would be kind of odd just to see these top tier or top ranking T-72s and nothing else coming for anyone. Normally we see them in batches. You know, we see a few T-72s and then we'll see maybe a American tank, then maybe a German tank. Normally, if you have a look at something like Advancing Storm, where they added the M1 Abrams, you know, they added the Challenger alongside us, they added stuff like the Leopard 2K, I believe they also added the T-64B, and then you can have a look at when stuff like the Leopard 2A5 or the Challenger 2, they added stuff like, I think it was the M1A1 or the M1A2 alongside it. So it's nice to see more T-72s, but it's definitely a, I wonder what else they're going to be adding to the high tiers. But yeah, the first thing to understand is this B3 will, as I said, comes with the thermal imaging, but it doesn't really come with too many other advantages when it comes to mobility and protection. It's pretty much the same as the 1989 variants that you'll get, so we'll have to see how its BR changes because of this. And one of the things that is also being put onto this machine, which is kind of odd to me, is that they made a more upgraded version. And this upgraded version you can find right here, I believe. I think it's this one with the upgraded armor. So with this upgraded version, what you find is this is made in 2016. So this is one of the most modern versions of the T-72B3. This is the one which is used in active service today, and the main difference between this and the other T-72B3 that we had a look at is the fact that it uses a new gun stabilizer, a better engine, and advanced relic protection with ERA elements on the hull and the turret sides. You can see it on the front there, where if you compare it to, let's say, this, you can see how it has like the Contact 5 on the side here, protecting the front of the tracks like this. But then you have this, where you can see all of this just covered in ERA, and also on the upper glacis as well. So that is the main difference between the two, is the fact that you get a lot more weight in the form of this relic protection with ERA elements, but you also get a massively more powerful engine. I believe it goes from about 860 horsepower to 1130 horsepower. And we'll have to see how that new gun stabilizer works out. I don't think it'll actually make too much of a difference. It'll probably make a little bit of difference, but we'll have to see, you know, how it goes. I think the main thing is, the main thing about this vehicle is that the extra armor will kind of make or break it. Like, would there be a reason to play this over something like a T-80U? You know, we'll have to see. Also, if it gets a better round, obviously being from 2016, it should have the top of the line stuff such as APFSDS that the Russians have to offer right now. The main problem I have with this Devblog, though, is, as pointed out by Stoner, is the fact that there are two T-72s here. And I think when we have a look at this T-72, the B3 from 2016 and the one from 2011, I think there's enough difference between these vehicles where they should be two separate vehicles instead of the 2016 one being a modification of the 2011 one. The 2016 one is taking this 2011 one and just making it better in pretty much every way. You know, improved mobility, improved engine, so probably better acceleration, more armor on it, better gun stabilization. The only thing it probably won't do better is the ammunition because, well, it's the same vehicle. So, you know, better, same penetration. But I feel like there's enough between these vehicles. They should be seen as two separate ones instead of two which are the same. We've seen this a lot with a few of the vehicles where until they get a specific upgrade, they struggle when unmodified. And it's basically because that upgrade gives them so much power, whether it's in the form of bombers and certain bomb loads that they can use, whether it's something like turret rotation even for certain vehicles, or artillery or engine upgrades. Anything like this can fundamentally change how you play a vehicle on a lot of maps. And to see this come into the game, especially this is going to be at the top of the T-72 line, one of the major issues I think it's going to have is getting to that fully upgraded scent. And as I've said, many times when it comes to these vehicles, especially the high tier ones, one of the biggest challenges of them is getting them spaded. Getting them to a point where they are going to be fully done up and fully ready for battle, unless, of course, UGE stuff. But this thing is going to be a monster against anything which is slinging heat, so have fun with that. And the other thing to also mention when it comes to this is it's going to be the end-of-the-line T-72 vehicle. And if you don't know, end-of-the-line vehicles have a higher modification cost per modification than everything else. So it's going to take ages to get this thing modified, and that is going to be a little bit rough. It is really nice to see some more T-72s though. As I said, I've had some very positive experiences with them in the past, and to see more being added gets me very happy. And it also makes me wonder what other things nations are going to get. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Battling Bacon, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Universe, Eugens Terry, and also I'm Devilish and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.